What perception do you have about yourself? What kind of thoughts do you think other people have about you? How do you think other people see you? When you show up maybe in the class or in a conference or at work, how do you think other people perceive you? Now, whatever your answer is, that's actually how you perceive yourself, because how you think other people see you is how you see yourself. And the thoughts you think other people have about you are indirectly the thoughts you have about yourself. So I'll ask you again, what perception do you have about yourself? Do you see yourself as lesser than other people? Do you joke about yourself in a negative way? Are you finding it hard to improve your perception of self? How can you increase the value that you have placed on yourself? Now, today's episode shows you all you need to increase your self-esteem by 30%. Yeah, you heard me, just 30%. And if you stay with me till the very end of today's episode, you understand why it's only 30% I'll be able to help you with today. Welcome to Healthy Minds Talk, a podcast created to help you grow, bring awareness to mental health, and also remind you that it's not all in your head. There's hope, even when your brain tells you there isn't. I'm Praise Victor, and I remain your host on this show. Just before I dive right into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to Ade Pero. Now, she reached out to me after listening to last week's episode, and she was like, it was really wonderful and I should keep doing great and my sweet voice is everything. I want to say thank you, Pero. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and giving me feedback. I really like it after every one of you listens to an episode of the podcast, you give me a feedback. It really helps me stay motivated and it helps me keep improving and giving you guys the best content. It really gives me joy. So thank you so much. And now let's get right into today's episode. Now, before I start talking about how to increase your self-esteem by 30%, I just want to clarify that today's episode is not just for those with low self-esteem. So I don't want you to jump to the conclusion that since you already have a high sense of self, then you don't need it. Now, no matter how unconventional this may sound, there is no stable level of self-esteem. It's not static. It's not fixed. Depending on the situation, self-esteem can fluctuate. My self-esteem fluctuates sometimes, and I'm pretty sure that yours does too sometimes. And that's why today's episode shows you how to maintain and increase your self-esteem, even in situations where you can easily just switch to negative self-talk or reduce your sense of value. Now, back to today's episode. If you guessed from the intro, self-esteem is how you think and see yourself. It's what you think about yourself and how you see yourself. It's the value you place on yourself, the opinion you have about yourself. It's almost like how you see yourself in comparison to others. And what influences your opinion of self? There are so many things like your age, your family background, maybe your parents were too critical of you or gave you the grace to make mistakes. It can, influence your self-esteem. It can determine if you'd have a high or low sense of self. Your childhood experiences, if you were bullied at school or struggled to fit in and make friends, social media. Now, there are so many unrealistic standards from social media that affect how you see yourself. For example, there's this standard, or would I say ideal, that you should have a high-paying job and a house at a certain age, or you should, have this kind of body as a lady, or wear this kind of clothes in this, the trendy clothes and all of that. And all these unhelpful ideas that you used to see yourself in another perspective, used to judge yourself, even your friend group, colleagues at work, your income, and even strangers on the internet sometimes can influence how you see yourself, either positively or negatively. And how do you know if your self-esteem is low, or how do you know when your self-esteem fluctuates to a low level? Now, if you joke about yourself in a negative way, you engage in negative self-talk. If you think less of yourself compared to others and you choose to play small because you lack the confidence to show up, if you people please, if you feel powerless to take responsibility for your life, you find it difficult expressing your needs and setting boundaries in your relationships, if you can't leave the house without makeup, no matter how weird this may sound, but why wouldn't you like be able to leave the house without makeup if you're not struggling with your self-esteem? Like, do you think you're ugly? Do you think makeup covers the, I don't know, whatever it is you hate about yourself? I don't know why you wear makeup. I'm not against makeup, okay? I'm not against makeup. You can wear makeup for special occasions and all of that, but you choosing to wear makeup every time, every single day you want to leave your house. Now, that is, I'm sorry to like announce to you, but that is not exactly normal. Like, why would you do that? You don't feel confident leaving your house without putting your makeup on. Now, that is a problem. Anyways, and if you also struggle to have a positive body image, then you might be struggling with a low sense of self, a low self-esteem. And obviously, if you do the opposite of these things, if you appreciate yourself, engage in positive self-talk, if you're open to criticism and you don't take it personally, if you feel comfortable and confident sharing your opinion, if you have loving and respectful relationships where you don't have to be another person to feel seen, or you don't have to please them in a way that you like go out of your way to please them and all of that just so you can feel validated. If you don't do any of that, then yeah, you have a high sense of, you have high self-esteem. And just to clarify that self-esteem is not self-confidence. You can have high confidence and low self-esteem, because self-confidence is rooted in how you perceive your skills and abilities, while self-esteem is rooted in how you perceive yourself, like your entire self, probably as a brother or a mother or a friend or girlfriend, wife. I don't know. It's basically how you perceive yourself as that person, and not based on what you have to offer, maybe your skills or your abilities. That self-confidence is rooted in that, while self-esteem is rooted in how you perceive yourself, your sense of self, how you value yourself and all of that. And it's like being a confident public speaker, but always focusing on the negatives and, ignoring your accomplishments. Now, that's an example of having high confidence in your abilities as a public speaker, but having a low sense of self. Choosing to ignore your achievements because you feel like you're not worth it or it doesn't matter. That is low self-esteem in action. And why am I dedicating a whole podcast episode to talk about self-esteem? Like, why is it so important? Why should you pay attention to your self-esteem today? Now, if you have low self-esteem, you will confuse kindness for love. Now, let me explain this because it has happened to me before. And what I'm about to say might seem really, it might seem funny, it might seem weird, and you might also relate to it. But this is one of the things that happened on different occasions to me when I had a very, very low self-esteem. My self-esteem was like dragging, hitting the floor. It was that low. And anyways, let me explain what I mean by if you have low self-esteem, you would confuse kindness for love. Now, let's say due to the fact that most of the time you haven't been treated well by the people around you, and so you believe that something is wrong with you and no one is ever going to treat you nicely. But then a stranger comes along and starts being polite and, showing you kindness, giving you the respect that you deserve as a human being. But because no one has ever done that for you without expecting something in return, you start thinking that this person is romantically interested in you. And then you start having feelings for the person. But meanwhile, the person is just being nice. The person has no idea that you're already catching feelings. They're so clueless. And then when the person notices your advancement towards them romantically and they distance themselves, you return to that belief that something is wrong with you, that it's because something is wrong with you, that's why they left. It's because something is wrong with you, that's why no one ever treats you nicely. But The truth is, all of this happened just because of your low self-esteem. Your low opinion of yourself made you mistake that kindness for love because you had no idea that you deserve to be treated with love, respect. You had no idea because you had never been treated that way before, and then someone comes along and just gives you all of that. And now you're catching feelings or thinking they want something in return. Meanwhile, they're just being nice. They're being human, how humans should actually act. And if your self-esteem shows, like, self-esteem is also important because it shows in the way you carry yourself. Yeah, let me put it that way. Your self-esteem shows in the way you carry yourself. It reflects in the way you show up at work, in meetings, during class presentations. Let's just say it shows up more. Your self-esteem shows up more when you're in public, and you not only look confident, but you're also able to express your ideas and opinions. You feel comfortable to engage in conversations. You don't attach criticism to your worth, but you're able to, notice your mistake, identify it, acknowledge that, yeah, I made a mistake, and, be accountable and improve and correct them. So your self-esteem is visible in the way you show up, wherever you show up. It's visible even in your walking posture. If you don't work with your, walk, taking a walk. Yeah, it shows up in your walking posture, not work. It shows up in your walking posture. If you don't walk with your, shoulders slouched down, head bowed down whenever you enter, maybe a restaurant or a just somewhere public, a public place, maybe a church, or I don't know. I don't really go out, so I don't know places, or a bank. Yeah, if you don't walk into the building with your head, bow down, slouched down. I don't want anybody to see me. That kind of thing. Yeah, then you don't have low self-esteem. It really, your self-esteem shows up in your posture, your behavior, your conversations. Yes, so self-esteem is very important because it shows up in all those areas. And so now, how can you increase your self-esteem by 30% today? Now, the first thing you should do is to be aware. You have to, because due to the fact that I remember I said at the beginning that self-esteem is not static, which means that there's every possibility that it can fluctuate depending on the situation. So you have to be aware that what are those situations that make me have a low view of myself? What are those words or conversations that reduce how I value myself? What affects my self-esteem negatively? Is it an Instagram post from an old friend, or is it a work or school presentation? Whatever it is, just notice how you feel and what you say, what you think and say about yourself in these situations. Ask yourself if these beliefs are true. Do they sound like what you tell your best friend about themselves? If it doesn't sound like something you tell your best friend, don't say that to yourself. Just don't. Another thing you can do is to practice mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is something I didn't really understand quite well in time. I thought it was meditation, but there's mindfulness and there's meditation and there's mindful meditation. But I'm not getting into the meditation part today. Mindfulness is actually very easy. It's a skill that it's cultivated through practice. It's when you're able to focus on the present and feel your emotions without judgment, without judging yourself. And last week we talked about how to feel your emotions. So this should be something that's very easy if you put last week's episode into practice. And mindfulness really just helps you gain control of your mind because you are aware of the fact that, okay, this is just a thought. And I'm able to see whether this thought is true, that this thought doesn't really, decide my self-worth. And mindfulness activities are so easy. It can be simple. It's so simple. It's as simple as just taking a walk or just sitting somewhere and being calm and feeling the breeze on your skin. And then you're having thoughts while all this is happening, but you don't attach yourself to those thoughts. And it can even be as simple as taking a deep breath. Yeah. So mindfulness is really something that's so simple, and I feel everybody should really start practicing it. Even if you do have high self-esteem, you still need to practice mindfulness. Another thing you can do is to embrace your imperfections. Now, I'd say this to anyone that's struggling to have a positive body image. Now, you can't change the size of your body parts. I mean, you can with, science and technology, all those inventions, discoveries. You can go to a hospital and, want an operation to change the size of one part of your body or to replace it with, I don't know, I'm not a science person, but it's possible to do all of that. But really, why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? Do you know that what you hate most about your appearance is probably the most unique thing about yourself that someone else admires and someone else probably wishes they had? So just whatever beauty standard you have in your head, just delete it. That standard can maybe work for someone else. It's like saying, I'm a lady, yeah, right? Yeah, obviously. And it's like saying, I want to have like Zendaya's body. I can't have that. Like, anyone who knows me knows that it's not possible. I cannot have Zendaya's body because we don't have the same body size. And I love my body the way it is. It does so much for me. And I am grateful for my body the way that it is. So it's like, it's me choosing to love my body despite how it looks in comparison to Zendaya's own. Now, I don't have any hatred towards I love Zendaya, but I'm just using her as an example to make straight of the fact that it's okay. Like, you shouldn't have all this beauty standard Instagram. I don't have anything against these people, Instagram models, all these celebrities, and you would starve yourself, or you would say you're dieting. I think that's what people call it these days, dieting. And you say you're dieting just because you want to look like them, or you go to the hospital for an operation to look like a Barbie doll. Like, please, I don't know you, but please do not do that to yourself, because no matter what, even when you still do that to your body, trust me, there's a high possibility that you still hate your body. Just learn to love your body. You should be able to be confident in your skin. Go to the mirror, repeat affirmations to yourself. I love my body. I look beautiful. I love my nose. I love my eyes. I love my thighs. I don't know the insecurities men have about their appearance, but you should also be able to do that to yourself as a guy. So enough of the body positivity. Yep. I'm not talking about body positivity today. So another thing you can do to increase your self-esteem is to focus on what you can control and change. Now, you can control your actions, your responses, your beliefs, your choices, boundaries, but you cannot control your past, other people's words, their opinions, their behavior, their responses. You cannot control that. So you need to accept and let go of what you can't control. Another thing, you need to surround yourself with people who encourage and accept you. And I don't think I need to stress the importance of healthy friendships and relationships, really. You need to have friendships where you complement each other. You don't compete with each other, where you're encouraged to do better and be better, where you're able to get constructive criticism about maybe your work, your project, whatever it is you're working on, and you're still able to feel loved even in that space, in that circle. And you should also you should be in friendships where your boundaries are respected. Now, if you're in a friendship or a romantic relationship with no boundaries, then you'll find yourself feeling drained all the time because you always go past your limits to be there for them and please them. And I don't want them to be angry with me. I just, we're friends. What are friends for? Okay, you keep using that excuse to go past what your energy or your resources can offer. And if you have reaffirmed your boundaries to such friends without seeing a change, then you need to reduce the amount of time you spend with them. don't let yourself get pushed around at the expense of your mental health and wellness. And you also need to reflect and celebrate every win. Now, every win deserves to be celebrated. Every accomplishment, every step towards progress, it needs to be celebrated, no matter how small you think it is. If you can celebrate a friend or your loved one, if they get whatever milestone or achievement you think is too small, then you should do it for yourself too. And I'm going to do it for myself right now. I just released I think this is the 28th episode. Yes, I just released my 28th episode of Healthy Minds Talk, and I'm so proud of myself for not giving up when I didn't have much listeners. No, it's not like I have the amount of listeners I really want in my head, but I'm still growing. And I'm making an impact, and that's something to be so proud of, and I'm proud of myself. So this is just an example of self-reflection and me publicly celebrating myself for having a positive impact. And this also means that, when you're celebrating yourself or just reflecting and acknowledging how far you've gone, it doesn't have to be only within the restrictions of monetary, within the restrictions of monetary milestones. So because most times now in today's society, people only get celebrated or celebrate themselves when they start earning a particular amount of money they've always wanted to earn, or when they get a promotion or a raise at work, something like that. All those things also deserve to be celebrated, but you should also not neglect yourself when you take small steps towards progress, towards achieving that huge milestone that you want. So another thing you can do to increase your self-esteem by 30%, I'm still getting to the 30% part, I promise. You just have to stay with me, is to engage in positive self-talk with affirmations. It's very easy to switch to negative self-talk when we make a mistake or disappoint someone. All it takes is just for one thing to happen, and then you just find yourself saying something like, I'm so stupid, I'm such a shitty person, or I'm ugly, like look at them, or my project is not good enough, or stuff like that. You just find yourself saying that. And this is whenever you start becoming negative and overly critical of yourself, you need to replace what you're saying with positive self-talk, depending on what your inner critic is saying at that point in time. So, for example, your inner critic might be telling you that, look at you, you really can't do this. Like, what makes you so confident that you can? You don't have the resources, you don't have the knowledge and all of that. And you can just reaffirm your confidence and tell yourself something like, I can do hard things. I will learn. I will get through this. Or if your inner critic is, shaming you about your body or about your look, your appearance, you can reaffirm and say, I am beautiful, or I am handsome just the way I am. All of those things, positive affirmations, are really helpful in rephrasing negative self-talk. And I am releasing an ebook by November on how to rephrase and overcome negative thoughts and your inner critique with positive affirmations. But right back to this episode, I'm just giving you a heads up. You need to also do what makes you happy to increase your self-esteem. If it's reading a novel or going on a solo date, watching, going to the movies, I don't know what people do. I don't know what makes you happy, but whatever it is that makes you happy, just do it. If it's rekindling your passion in an area that you've neglected, or complimenting yourself, reaffirming your strengths, rewarding yourself for just existing, is also a thing. Sometimes you just need to sit down somewhere. And I always say sit down somewhere because, it's a busy world we live in. People going to work, having kids around, all of this stuff, and you hardly have time for yourself to just stay still in silence, just you with yourself, enjoying your company. And sometimes you have to do that. And so just find somewhere to sit that's really quiet, only you, and reflect. Just think back to, let's not even go far to say last year. Let's think back to 5 months ago, or 3 months ago, or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we can start from 2 weeks ago, probably when you were facing something that was so difficult. It was probably a very tough season for you, and you were, thinking and just lamenting on how exactly you were going to get through that season, how you were going to survive and everything. But now look at you, you're still here. You didn't die. It didn't break you. Maybe it did break you a little bit, but you're still here. You're still standing strong. And that is something that is worth celebrating. You really should just sit somewhere sometimes, reflect on your growth, and celebrate yourself for just existing. Acknowledge the fact that, oh my God, I'm still here. Like, you've how many worst moments of your life have you scaled through? You've probably said so many times that maybe something happens, something terrible happens, and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And you got through that, and then another thing came up, maybe over time, and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened in my life. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But you also got through that. Sometimes you just have to sit down somewhere, reflect on all of those, and be grateful. Yes, I'll term all of this as self-reflection and gratitude. It really does also help to improve your self-esteem. And the reason why all of what I just said in today's episode will only help you by 30% is because this entire episode, from 0 seconds to whatever second is counting now, is pointless if you do not take action. If you don't act on what you just heard in today's episode, you'll be lacking a 70% increase in your self-esteem. All you have is the knowledge without implementation. So you decide where and how to input the remaining 70%. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, family, and co-workers, and also share a screenshot of you listening to it on IG and tag me. I'd love to give you a shout out in next week's episode. And don't forget to follow this podcast on the podcasting platform you're using, and also follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description. Have a healthy mind till we talk again next Monday.